1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Demonic machines! Demonic machines! Demonic machines! Live! I don't
Rock and
know.
roll. Rock and roll.
Yeah, I turned the gain all the way up on my mic just because I wanted my voice to distort.
It was distorted for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably not going to do it again. It was an experiment, and I thought it would be fitting for the theme for this episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Also, for some reason, my sound is coming out of my computer, not in my headphones. Give me a second to figure that out.
You're good.
Yeah. All right. Okay, cool. So
and we're live.
we are live and we've got no one watching. Awesome. So we can do whatever we want.
Well, they say play as if no one's watching. So
yeah,
fair enough,
yeah,
right?
that is exactly right. The show must go on. That's another one.
We got one viewer from
All right.
one comment from YouTube.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, welcome. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Yeah. I am pulling up the show notes.
Yes, the notes. We need
The
the notes.
The robo notes.
I think that's actually a really cool concept that we might be able to roll into being part of the show and just be like, hey, so in fitting with the integration of technology as a tool, we decided to try this and see how it goes. I think it's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, definitely. It was I was honestly, like, I've been following AI since like I got really into it in grad school. And so when this big explosion happened a few months ago where everyone was suddenly talking about it, I was like, ooh, what's available to the public now? And I've got, oh man, I spent too much money on just different programs and stuff just to mess with AI. But anyway,
I know that feeling.
I'm lucky. My co-host is Deuce.
We are here.
The theme for this episode is rebellion and music. And the reason I wanted to do that theme is because in this episode, we are giving you the opportunity to win a Punk Buster. Oh, it's not one in the show. There we go. Punk Buster from Demonic Machines.
Yeah.
And I just, so I know not everyone, it was punk rock that got them into whatever kind of alternative realm they're in now, but that was sort of the beginning for me. I remember, for as long as I can remember, the heaviest things I have heard are the things that I've always been drawn to. And like in the third grade, the song Separate Ways by Journey, it's got that guitar riff that's just bum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum ba-da-da-dum. And I was like 8 and like, oh my gosh,
this is so heavy.
Yeah. And then like in 7th grade, like Limp Bizkit had gotten real big, and I was like really into Limp Bizkit for some reason. And
it's okay.
Yeah. And then I got into, and then in like 8th grade, I got Blink-182 Dude Ranch. I did one of those
that fucking album.
Yeah. And that was, I heard that album and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing music. What is this called? And then like, people were like, oh, that's punk rock. And then I like go and I talked to other people and get on web forums because this was like the beginning of like the internet and like forums and stuff. And I'm like, I like punk, like Blink 182 and
Yeah.
Green Day, and everyone was like, "Oh, you're a poser. You don't know Black
Yep.
Flag and
Yep, that's
anti."
what I was about to say, is people were probably like, "Man, fuck you, you don't know Black Flag, you don't know the Misfits and Ramones, you don't know shit about punk."
Yeah, and I mean, to their credit, I did check out those bands because of that,
Yeah.
and I got into the music that forever changed my life, you know? I think, um, I guess I wanted to start with that story because I am a very, like, non-traditional, kind of, like, resistant sort of person, just in general.
Mhm.
I love, oh, absolutely, the MC5 is fantastic.
Kick out the
So,
jams.
let's talk about the MC5. The MC5, I mean, I would like, people argue that the MC5 are the first punk band.
Yeah.
Um, their whole thing was like, "Brothers and sisters, we gotta have a revolution,"
Yeah.
and, Kick Out the Jams was the first mass-produced recording ever to have the word "motherfuckers" in it. Um
I didn't even know that that was in that, my bad.
Oh, yeah, no, totally. That it's so I think the way they edit it on Spotify,
Yeah.
they actually cut it off, or after he says, "Kick out the jams, motherfucker."
Gotcha.
Um, oh yeah, no, like, well, so the first punk band, the first time the word punk rock or the term punk rock was ever used was in 1969 in Cream magazine to describe Question Mark and the Mysterians. I don't
Okay.
think that definitively makes them the first punk band by any means.
But it's the first time they
Um,
used the term to describe a band.
yeah, it was the first
So,
time
yeah.
that word came up, and you can all day say Chuck Berry did this or others did this, or like it even goes back to jazz. And the thing
You
is,
could argue that, but yeah, you're
there
right.
have been rebellious, in your face musicians since way before there was ever punk rock or
Oh,
rock
yeah.
and roll. And so I wanted to get I wanted to know from the audience and also from you, Deuce,
Mm.
what
Yeah.
was were you a rebellious kid? And if so, what was the soundtrack to your rebellion?
Mm. It was interesting for me because, like I said before, I mean, viewers of ours will probably remember my background was growing up as like a Methodist kid, listening to a mixture of the Beatles, the Beach Boys, and like Weird Al and Frank Zappa and shit like that. So I think the earliest stuff that I had heard, at least from my parents' perspective, it would probably some of the Zappa shit was fucking out there and super wild. I mean, I know Allman Brothers isn't considered punk, but hearing their live version of Whipping Post 19, I think it was 69 or 68 at the Fillmore, the super long version with the two fucking drummers and like some of the crazy shit that they ended up doing live, like I would consider that punk energy. But I
Hmm.
think I probably my first exposure to like what you would consider traditional or like actual punk music would probably be from my brother
Hmm.
or my one friend that conveniently grew across the street from me. He grew up. He introduced me to Blink 182. My brother used to play Adam's Song all the time and listen to that album. And I remember, I think Enema of the State was my one friend's favorite song or favorite album. And then Take Off Your Jacket and Pants. Or
Hmm.
I'm
Take off
not.
your pants
See,
and jacket.
yeah. See, my whole thing is I wasn't really per se like punk was a little bit before my time. I was more like when like alternative and new metal started kicking
Uh-huh.
up and all that type of shit. So I guess the first and I feel so fucking embarrassed to say it, but I think the first heavy band I discovered myself was like fucking Disturbed or something like that.
Oh, that was
But
one of Yeah, that was one of my
Yeah.
first 2. My,
'Cause I
like
remember that the intro to the fucking Sickness where it's like, "Do you feel that? Oh, wow!" Like,
"Wah!"
that
Yeah.
just that just, like, for me, coming from a kid that was listening to, like, the fucking Beach Boys and the Beatles and, like, shit like that, I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And then it was
Mhm,
like, it opened up a whole new world for me and, like, other types of new metal bands, like, early Papa Roach, and obviously Limp Bizkit's first album, I would argue, out of their entire discography, has the most punk ethos to it because it's really raw, it's not refined. It's the closest I think they've ever come to doing punk music, even though it's not what you would consider punk music by any means. But I
mhm,
think sometimes punk, like you said before, punk is a lot of people I feel musically interchange punk and rebellion back and forth because they're tied together. So any sort of rebellious music, I think. Oh, and how the fuck could I leave out like Rage Against the Machine and shit like that? I'm such a fucking dumbass.
mm,
Yeah, I think I remember hearing People of the Sun, and I was like, "What the? How the fuck is he making that noise with that guitar?" Because I didn't know that it was just a guitar at the time. I'm like, "Oh wow, they got like some sort of like fucking synthesizer in here, and this sounds super fucking cool and weird." And yeah, I mean, I think I'm jumping ahead with that, but yeah, like shit like that was like me growing up listening to things like that. But as far as punk, yeah, like Sum 41, Blink 182, Green Day, um, like that type of shit because I
uh-huh,
didn't really know where to dig to begin with. And then as I got a little bit older, I found more stuff like I love the Misfits. I got a fucking 138 tattoo. I got a real
nice.
bootleg looking Crimson Ghost on my fucking leg. Um, like I got tattooed on my friend. You talk about punk. I knew this dude. I got tattooed in his living room. We broke the door off of his closet, stretched it across 2 sawhorses. We were listening to Rudimentary Peni's EPs of RP, watching a fucking Lovecraft movie, getting drunk, getting tattooed, eating sushi. Like that was the most punk rock experience. And all that type of
Nice.
shit, like definitely influenced my perspective of it. But yeah, I don't know why I didn't even mention Rudimentary Peni is one of my favorite. I would you consider them anarcho or crust punk?
I mean, they're sort of like one of those. They're both, I think.
Yeah.
They're like early crust, early anarcho-punk, right? Because they were in the '80s, weren't they?
Yeah, yeah, they started
Okay.
in the '80s because I remember God, it's strange when I think about it now because you listen to Nick Blanco on the fucking first EPs all the way up to the most recent shit they did last year, and it's like we grew up with these motherfuckers, you know? It's crazy just
Mhm.
feeling like that, and, what, like Flux of Pink Indians,
Yep.
fucking Crass, um, obviously Black Flag, either what, the
Mhm.
Greg Ginn era or Rollins era, um
Well, it was all the Greg Ginn era.
oh, well, I
You
see, with Black Flag, I'm not super, super familiar, but my one like I said, my one buddy whose
Mhm.
house I used to hang out with, he would define it like that
Oh,
because
yeah.
yeah,
He
because
probably
I
just gotta I mean, like, pre-internet,
yeah.
like, you didn't know all the lore of Black Flag,
Yeah.
you know? And they had 4 singers. They had, like, I think 22 members over the course of their initial run.
Yeah, because
Um,
wasn't Des Cadena a singer for them at one point as well?
yeah, Dez was a singer, and, oh, we don't talk about Gigi Allen. We call
Yeah,
him the
no,
Poo
I
Poo
was
Pee
I was
Pee
about to
Man.
say, we don't talk about the poo poo pee pee man here. Unfor
Yeah.
we don't for many reasons, but mainly because I don't think that there's anything respectful or positive that that man brought to the scene. At one point, I used to listen to that music, and then once I had a fucking clue, I'm like, "Wow, this is an absolute fucking trash fire of a human being. Why does
Yeah.
anybody talk about this person?" So,
Oh, yeah.
fuck Gigi Allen, going on record here. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely, like, I used to listen to that shit when I was younger, but, like, at some point, I just, like I mean, yeah, we'll change the subject.
We could talk about Lou
Um,
Reed, right? Lou Reed? Someone said
yeah,
Lou Reed. Yeah.
let's talk about Lou Reed.
I love Lou Reed, so I could fucking I could go like, which part of Lou Reed do we want to talk about? Do we want to talk about when he was when he came up with the ostrich tuning, when he was playing with Pickwick Records, writing these fucking weird ass like novelty songs for money, or do we talk about when he hooked up with John Cale and they started the very beginning of what would become the Velvet Underground? Do we talk
Well,
about when
it
they
sounds
were
like you
involved with
know
the
a
Warhol
lot.
era? We can
It
go anywhere.
it sounds like you really know a lot about Lou
Oh
Reed.
yeah,
So let's just
Velvet
hear what
Underground.
let's hear the story of the Velvet Underground, because so there's this book called Please Kill Me: The Uncensored Oral
Yeah,
History of Punk, and it basically
yeah.
starts with the Velvet Underground. So according to that book,
You
we
know,
could say the Velvet Underground is sort of the beginning of it.
okay, and that is a fair point. The whole, and I need to preface this by saying there's a lot of fucked up shit that Lou Reed has said during his entire career when he was still alive. There's a lot of song lyrics. There's a lot of references to shit. Lou Reed was an imperfect person. I like to try sometimes to look at the art in the period when it was created and who the person was. But let's just go on record and say Lou Reed has done some fucked up stuff that I don't agree with. So please don't take this as an endorsement of every single thing Lou Reed has ever done. Because Lou Reed had some weird racist songs in the 80s and shit like that. And
Mhm.
I'm not proud to say any of that because I love Lou Reed and it's the stain on an otherwise more or less interesting career. But I just
Mhm.
wanted to put that out there to begin with because shit was different, but that doesn't make it any better. But yeah, so Lou Reed and the Velvet Underground. I think, like I said, I think that the core of the group really started with John Cale, Lou Reed, and Sterling. I can't remember. See, now that I'm on the spot, I can't remember the names, but members don't necessarily matter that much. Part of what made the Velvet Underground punk was because their drummer wasn't a drummer. The drummer was somebody who had a fucking they Lou Reed has famously said if a song has more than 3 chords, it's not rock and roll. It's jazz. Because 3 chords, punk rock, boom, 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 get it the fuck done. Just bonk it out, make it rock. That's all that really mattered with it. Now,
Mhm.
the Velvet Underground, you got to understand, a lot of the people in the Velvet Underground were like art school dropouts or people that had higher aspiring ideas for their career and it just didn't work out. I mean, obviously John Cale went on to be famous and Sterling Morrison, I think is the guy's name, the other guitar player in the Velvet Underground. But the Velvet Underground was Lou Reed, Mo Tucker, Sterling will just say, because I'm sure someone's going to fact check me in the fucking comments, and John Cale. That was the initial lineup for that. The songs, I think, were initially written between John Cale and Lou Reed. Again, could be wrong about that. Um, and it all started with just like guitar and bass and vocals, like most stuff does. But when they brought Mo Tucker in, Mo Tucker didn't know how to play drums in the conventional way. So you got a bass drum on its side and a snare drum and like
Mhm.
a fucking cymbal. So Mo would play like this. There was no kick, there was no toms. It was just and that very weird tribal rhythmic feel. If you listen to the first Velvet Underground record,
Mhm.
you can hear it Sunday morning or not Sunday morning. I'm waiting for the man, uh,
Mhm.
and several other songs on
All
there.
Tomorrow's Parties.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And interesting fact, a lot of people are probably gonna be like, well, why didn't you mention Nico? Well, Nico was not initially part of the group. Nico was actually kind of pushed onto the group by Andy Warhol because Andy
Mhm.
Warhol was like, hey, I want y'all to work with Nico because Nico's cool and does cool shit. And they kind of worked her into the group to make it work. And to their credit, I love that album. It's a fantastic album. Nico has some great singing parts. There was later an album, I think it was called Chelsea Girl, that Nico came out with that had a lot of co-writes
Mhm.
from Lou Reed and John Cale. And I think even, anyway, that's not important. Basically, the first album, what a lot of people have said is not many people bought it, not many people listened to it, but everyone that did went on to start a band. The whole energy behind that album and just the feeling of the music. I think really did shake everything up, and it did influence people to see that there's more than just a traditional, 1, 2, 3, 4, like four on the floor type simple beat or anything like that. And it was something that really shook things up because it was different. It was just strange. And then they continued that on into the White Heat, White Light album, which by all means, you wouldn't really consider punk now, but they went into a studio to record everything. The engineer didn't know how to record everything the way that they wanted to. They were in the red the whole time. If anyone's ever listened to that album is crunchy as fuck. Like constant, like like it's not an easy album to listen to sometimes because of how crunchy it is, but that was how punk rock it was. They were just playing so fucking loud. The dude who's engineering was just like, I don't know what to do. And Lou's like, fuck you, just record. Shut the fuck up. We're
Does
doing it.
that album have the song where the dude mails himself to his
Yes,
girlfriend?
yes, The
Yeah.
Gift. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Uh, the fun part about that is all the music is bound to one ear, and then you have John Cale in this separate ear telling the story about it. Oh man, I'm glad you brought that up. That's anyone who's listening that has not listened to the Velvet Underground, you need to look up because there's a lot of history and there's a lot of shit that you should check out. And I think my internet may or may not be cutting in and out. So I don't know if any of this is usable
I've been
footage or audio.
I've been able to
So
follow it
I'm
so
still
far.
here.
I have gone back and watched some of our episodes, and like we'll be like
Yes.
there'll be a part where we just like cut out for like a few seconds, and I'm just like, well, that
Yeah.
didn't
Okay.
happen. I don't remember that happening during the
Well,
live stream.
because what I see is up next to where the viewer count is, it'll show the Wi-Fi signal and it'll show it
Yeah.
like blinking on and off. Yeah. I'm really bad
Yeah.
at describing things. You kind of have to be in the room with
I
me. It's
I know
it's
what you're
kind of the
talking about.
vibe. But anyone that's listening, if you've never listened to the Velvet Underground, I would strongly recommend you check out the first album, Velvet Underground and Nico. The first song is very misleading. Sunday morning, sun is dawning. It's just anyway. Fantastic album. It's got a lot of soft moments, but it's also got a lot of fucking crazy sounding shit, especially considering what was going on at the time. I definitely feel that the next album is a lot more in that punk ethos for the quality, the way
Mhm.
the songs are written. I mean, fucking Sister Ray is like an almost 20-minute long song with like a crazy fucking organ solo going on in it. Like
Mhm.
it's wild. It feels like everybody was just like fucking fighting each other in the recording studio.
That's
And
awesome.
oh man. And then Lou Reed himself, rest in peace or piss, depending on how you feel about Lou Reed. Very interesting career. Way too much to talk about. That could be a whole episode on its own. I think the most punk rock album that Lou Reed did is ironically not very punk at all. It's the one that was done with Bob Ezrin, Berlin, which I think is actually a story about like a street worker
Mhm.
in Berlin. I don't remember the story very well. People should check it out. The only thing Lou Reed did on that album besides write the music was just play acoustic guitar and sing. And Bob Ezrin was like fucking super coked up and did everything else. And there's all these crazy arrangements, but it's really an underrated album. And it just kind of goes back to that whole rebellion part of it because it was like rebelling against all the shit that everybody was expecting Lou to do,
Mhm.
especially after the album that Lou did that David Bowie produced,
Mhm.
Transformer, with Andy's Chest and Perfect Day and all sorts of good shit on there, you know. Oh, how could I not talk about Walk on the Wild Side?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Arguably one of the first songs that I think mentions, if I might be so bold as to say, mentions trans people.
Yeah, I
He was,
mean,
he was a she, and hey man. Take a walk
Uh-huh.
on the wild side, you know, like it shows that this it's just looking back, it's just like how could you not see that, you know? And
Mhm.
everybody that gets so up in arms about it, it's like, bro, open your fucking ears and listen to me. I mean, look at what David Bowie was doing back then. Like, come
Uh-huh.
on, you know?
Oh, I mean,
So
I think punk specifically,
yeah.
like, is very, like, queer music. And, like, always has been, like, I mean, and I think, like, the pioneers of it, like Iggy Pop, Lou
Oh,
Reed, and
oh
David
yeah,
Bowie kind of, like,
absolutely.
walked the line a lot of times because it was the, the 70s, and so people weren't as cool about it and that sort of thing. Interesting thing about Walk on the Wild Side, though,
Yeah,
it's about so the woman he's referring to is Candy
yeah.
Darling. The
Okay.
song Lola is also about Candy Darling.
Interesting. I don't think I
Yeah.
knew that.
Yeah. Well, so it's pretty problematic the way if you've ever listened to Lola by the Kinks.
Yeah.
It's like there's one line that's like well, I'm not the world's most passionate man, but I know what I am in the bed. I'm a man, and so is Lola.
Yeah.
And it's basically about their manager falling in love with the drag queen and then finding out she had a trans woman drag
Yeah.
queen. I don't remember what Candy Darling identified as, and also they didn't have the vocabulary we have now.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like so that was actually both of them. Both of those songs are about that one woman, and she was one of the people that hung out like at the factory.
Yeah.
Um,
That sounds
and
right.
yeah, and also like Max's Kansas City and
Yep.
CBGB's and
Yep. I'm glad
um
you brought up Iggy Pop. How could I not mention the fucking Stooges after all that?
I mean, the Iggy Pop is according to Henry Rollins, Iggy Pop is the true king of rock and roll. Like, fuck Elvis. Iggy Pop is like hands down the king of rock and roll. And I'm not 100% with Henry Rollins on anything, but that I agree with.
I can
Um,
agree with that. Yeah, Henry Rollins has some interesting takes on shit that I'm not 100% with.
uh-huh.
But I definitely feel raw power. I mean, 1969, I want to be your dog, all sorts of type of shit. Like there was crazy, crazy shit that
Mhm.
was all coming out when you had what that was coming out around the same time that you had like fucking Beach Boys stuff still in the radio and
Uh-huh.
Beatles stuff still in the radio. So it's like it was definitely something new and exciting. And it was rebellious because, you know, you're supposed to be all prim and proper and special and pretty sounding and writing these beautiful melodies. And then you got fucking Iggy Pop coming in. I
Uh-huh.
want to be your dog. Yeah. Not quite like that, but you know what I mean?
I mean, that's close enough. That's we got the idea.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, and so Iggy, what was I gonna say about Iggy?
Oh, wait a sec.
Um,
Michael says, "I want to be your dog" is a Muddy Waters song. Oh shit, I didn't know that. Huh.
huh.
Ah, well, we
And
learned something
then
fucking new here.
Ron Ashton was an amazing guitar player. Ron
Yeah, rest
Ashton's
in peace. Mm.
yeah. He was his uh so his idol when the Stooges first started was Jimi Hendrix. Um
Oh.
and if you think about the timeline, they were contemporaries because Are You Experienced came out in 67, the Stooges self-titled came out in
Oh,
69, and
you're
then
right.
Hendrix died in 71.
Hmm.
I was it
Small
71 or
fucking
70?
world. I think it was 71. I
Yeah.
yeah.
But there was an
Hmm.
argument I remember hearing that Hendrix did hardcore punk before hardcore punk ever did hardcore punk.
Mm,
Um,
you
and
know,
I mean,
I agree to an extent. I think when Hendrix did the performance of that one Beatles song, their performance of Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, I think they played it a little faster and heavier than the album, and they only played it a couple days or something after it first came out.
mhm,
That's one example I can think of because Hendrix was like, "We got to fucking do this. We're doing it the right way." Blah blah blah. and it was definitely one of those more fast paced, aggressive renditions of it. So yeah, I could see that at the very least.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, it wasn't called hardcore. It wasn't called punk. It wasn't called, you know, it was just Jimi Hendrix being the most insane blues guitarist like in the entire world at the time. You know,
Fact
um,
check. September 18th. No, 1970, not 1979. That's when Hendrix died in 70.
Hendrix did not die in 1979.
Yeah, I was about to say that was just a typo. So that was my bad.
1970.
Yeah,
Okay.
70.
Yeah, that I mean, yeah, like, and I don't want to be a gear podcast that harps on Hendrix. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
let's move on from the 70s. Honest, actually, let's talk about hip hop, because I think that's rebellious music that, I don't know about you, but for me it wasn't really present for me like growing up, and in my teen years it wasn't
Yeah.
until I got older and I could drive to Best Buy by myself and buy a CD on my own, you know, and I could get the CDs with the explicit content
Yep.
rating on it or whatever. I started listening to Tupac. I started listening to Eminem. I started listening to
Yeah.
NWA. And this was in probably around 2005 when I got into this sort of stuff. And I'm just wondering if hip hop has any like place in your musical world, and if so, when did it like start to take a place? Are you I can't tell
That
if you're
might still
frozen
be
or
frozen because my internet's doing the weird fucking. Yeah, I'm waiting for my internet. I got to figure something out with this because this shit's obnoxious some days. Hip hop is very much in my wheelhouse, though. At least it was. Hip hop was definitely very, very, very in my wheelhouse because my brother, when I was growing up, not only did he like punk, but he was a skater. So he
Mhm,
would listen to crossover thrash. He would listen to fucking new metal, which is like obviously like a blend of down tune, chunky shit with DJs doing scratches and rapping. And that was
mhm,
really that's kind of how I feel like I cut my teeth on writing music and stuff because my biggest dream was always to put together like a musical outfit and find an MC to rap for us and we could just be alive. Like we can make the samples, we can make the music. We don't need to sample other people's shit. We can come up with our own shit. um so yeah, growing up, I think what was it? My brother, he listened to like DMX, Crazy Bone, Bone Thugs,
mhm.
definitely NWA type of stuff. The NWA very rebellious, especially when they first came out.
Oh my god, yeah.
Uh, um,
I mean, the
fucking
FBI was like all on. I mean, the same thing with Black Flag. The FBI was like, like always like tapping their phones and stuff too. But
oh yeah.
they got. I don't know. Do you know any of the NWA story? Because I don't, and I didn't watch the movie when it came out.
I mean,
Um,
with any movie, they're gonna embellish things and add stuff.
well, yeah.
I definitely feel like I don't know for a fact, but I know that there were, like you were mentioning, they were being surveilled because a lot of the messages, like "fuck the police," coming straight from the underground, like
Hmm.
all that type of stuff. Like, yeah, they were counterculture. They were going against what you think the cops in fucking L.A. and out in Cal. See, to me, since I'm from the East Coast, like L.A. is California, but
Hmm.
obviously they weren't down with what was going on. They're like, oh, we don't want this stuff. So they were fucking tapping their shit and keeping an eye on them and all that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they were behind any of the major assassinations like with Tupac or Biggie or anything like that, because like, I mean, look at what hip hop's become in terms of influence. Hip hop is, I would argue hip hop is like, when it started in the 80s, it was similar to the progression that rock started with, like the blues and into whatever. And like, we're almost in like the punk rock era of hip hop for the past 10 years or so. Like, it just keeps progressing and changing.
Hmm.
And I feel Public Enemy is one of the first ones that come to my mind that had an actual message that really started to piss the government off because it was pointing shit out that they
Uh-huh.
didn't want people to fucking know. And they're like, "Oh yeah, sure, we should do something about this Chuck D guy because he's kind of telling people about the truth of what we've been fucking doing for years." And yep,
Mhm.
Michael said NWA brought awareness to people about the ghetto, which is true because at that point in time, a lot of white folks and shit were just like chilling in the suburbs and they had no exposure to anything that other people had been going through or anything like that. So it was
Mhm.
very important, the message they put out there. I mean, gosh,
Yeah.
if we, yeah. I mean,
I'm gonna
I grew, you're good. You're good. If you want to go,
I
I'm sorry.
I
I'm just,
I'm gonna get some tea, is
oh,
all
okay.
I was gonna say. So
You're
I'll be
good.
right back.
I'll keep going then. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, So I'm sure everybody who's watching has heard of or known somebody who associates with the Insane Clown Posse. My brother was really, really big into them for a long time. Contrary to a lot of people's belief, the Insane Clown Posse is actually very anti anything that has to do with racism. Like they have, like on their first record, they have "Fuck Your Rebel Flag." They have a bunch of shit where they're talking about like hunting down bigots and killing them for judging people for their race and income and all this sorts of shit. Like they were very of their environment in Detroit with all sorts of fucked up shit, growing up poor and dealing with things like that. Um, I feel like over time, maybe their message changed because as they got a taste of money, not saying they were corrupted by the money, but things change as you progress in your career and whatnot. But that was one of the biggest introductions to hip hop for me was the Insane Clown Posse with my brother because of that, because I paid attention to the shit they were talking about. And they're like, yo, hey, redneck piece of shit beating your wife. Fuck you. We're going to find you and we're going to kill you. Hey, racist people causing trouble with people that are a different skin color than you.
Whoa.
Fuck you.
What
Rebel flag. If we see you flying any of this sort of shit, you're done.
who are we
sorry,
talking
sorry.
about?
The insane clown posse, because a
Is
lot
that
of
what your shirt
people.
is?
No, this is actually 666 fuck the cops.
Oh, okay.
This is a buddy of mine who used to be active that actually, I don't know what happened and I don't know the legality of the situation, but from what I understand he went to jail.
Mhm.
um but that's all I know about that. But I was just basically explaining Insane Clown Posse was one of the very first rap groups that my brother introduced me to because he was very into that culture, the whole Juggalo thing. And
Mhm.
the one thing that I was trying to point out is from the very beginning, ICP's been against racism. They hate bigots. They hate anybody who flies a rebel flag, anybody who claims Southern pride, any sort of
Mhm.
shit like, oh, my fucking America, I want my America back, fuck these people.
Mhm.
They're very fuck you if you're against progress. Fuck you if you're against anybody that looks different than you. Fuck you if you're rich and you think poor people are garbage. Like, just eat a dick and fuck off because
Mhm.
no one has the right to be better than anyone. And if you're going to be spreading hate, you better believe you got some fucking crazy assholes painted up in clown face paint that are going to come fucking find you and kick the shit out of you. You
Uh-huh.
know, one of my favorite songs that they've done is on an album that they did, I think it was 2015, if I'm not mistaken, and the song was called Flamethrower, and it was talking about them getting together, hopping into their fucking truck, driving down south, packing up a bunch of gasoline and some fucking flamethrowers, finding a clan rally, setting that shit up, feeling the heat of the fire, like make their skin tight as they watch these bigots fucking burn and die. Ugh. Sorry.
Oh, it's
Gives
all
me
good.
it gives me chills because I hate I hate people that hate people for no fucking reason. Like, I can see people being afraid of stuff that's different, and I can understand if you disagree with stuff. But if no one's fucking with you, no one's causing you any personal trouble, and they're not hurting anybody, leave them the fuck alone. Let them
Mhm.
live their lives. It's the same thing now with people that are hating on trans people or gay
Mhm.
people or anything. Just because you don't feel that that's your way of life doesn't mean you have any sort of superiority to make so they can't fucking exist. Like, we
Mhm.
all live on this fucking planet. Leave people the fuck alone, you know? Sorry.
Oh, you're
That's,
good. Yeah, I'm on board with you. I was
you
letting
know,
you talk. I cuz
like like I'm a religious person, but I'm not one of the people that's going to go around and fucking say, "Oh yeah, because you don't believe this, I'm going to pass judgment on you and say that you don't deserve to fucking live your life." No. I'm here to
yeah.
love people. I'm here to tell people that you should fucking treat each other with kindness, treat each other with love, respect each other, be there if somebody fucking needs you. Don't be like Joel Osteen on TV with that giant fucking Super Bowl church where he didn't let a single fucking person in when everybody lost their houses and shit. And it's, oh, I'm so sorry. We can't let you in our nice church because you're going to dirty it up with your poor ass feet. Fuck off with that shit. Those people
Mhm.
aren't what I consider good people. But
Yeah.
that's all I was saying.
Oh yeah. No, like I mean, I always felt like I mean, I've always read Jesus in the gospels as like an anarchist, you know? Like a very like you're not there's no one better than anyone, right? Like there's no we shouldn't have unjustified hierarchies, that sort of thing. I'm not religious, so that's
Yes.
just my literary interpretation.
Yes, absolutely, but
Um
I agree with you because
yeah.
and this is the whole point, and I'm going to go out on a limb here. No one is unworthy of love and compassion and understanding, whether you agree with them or not.
Mhm.
I'm not here to pass judgment on anybody. I'm here to try and help people be better people, understand the mistakes that people make, like hating people for no fucking reason and deliberately going out of your way. Like Westboro Baptist Church, I hate those motherfuckers. I'm not supposed
Oh
to
my
say
god.
that. I'm not supposed to say that as a Christian because they take certain parts of the Bible and interpret it as literal as possible. And they're like, "Oh
Mhm.
yeah, well it says right here this." It's like, "Okay, that's your interpretation." But they also think that military veterans should fucking burn in hell. They also
Mhm.
think that anybody that argues against what they think should fucking burn in hell. Like, who's to say that their interpretation's any better or more valid than what I would interpret it as? You know,
Yeah.
I
They
grew up.
also
My uncle was gayer than Freddie Mercury, and he was a Catholic.
that's a
You
high
know what I mean?
bar.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I've always had this in my life, and my uncle was one of the best people in the whole fucking world to me. He worked with people, he worked in human services, he gave his life taking care of people. That's part of the reason that he's no longer with us, because that was back before they knew about certain types of disease transmission and things like that.
Yeah.
And he was in close quarters with somebody and got tuberculosis, and then it transformed and became like cancer, and then we lost him.
Oh.
But to his dying day, he was a good fucking person, and it didn't matter what he did or how he felt or who he loved, you know? And that's
Yeah.
how I personally feel about it. And I
Yeah.
know this isn't thing, but it's rebellious because he stood up for what he fucking believed in, and he was still a good person, even though every person that would identify themselves faith would fucking hate and despise him. He's still, well, I love you even though you hate me. You know?
Uh-huh.
It takes balls to stand up and be able to be someone that you know people are going to hate and still believe, you know?
Uh-huh.
But yes,
Yeah.
compassion, and we do need to learn acceptance, and I completely understand that. And I love everybody. That's just my message. Music unites everybody. I feel that music is God in many ways because it brings everyone together, brings people peace, it brings people happiness. There's some people who couldn't live without music in their life because it makes such a big impact on them. And what's more rebellious than saying fuck you to the world and using music to empower yourself?
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know?
that's I mean, I think all artists, right, on some level have to have a little bit of a that fuck you spirit in them, especially like in the system that we live in. Like you have to be a little bit crazy to want to be an artist because there's no security in it.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean I think that makes it an act of rebellion. Um, so let's see, how are we on time right now? We're at
We got like
45.
yeah. Did you wanna hop into the '80s and talk about some of the artists in the '80s that represented rebellion? Because I feel like the '80s did have a significant amount of,
Well, so I mean, we kind of skipped over hardcore just because I talk about hardcore punk so
fair
much.
enough. Fair enough, I
Um,
agree.
there was the whole American indie underground of the '80s, right? And
Yeah.
that gave us, I mean, that basically gave us Nirvana, and a lot of those other bands that were in that milieu. Fucking, what are they called? Sonic Youth.
Yep.
A lot of, but anyway, what I was gonna talk about gear,
Yes.
and let's
Yes.
so like the kind of gear people use. And so I guess I want to start it with talking about this tweet that Toby Vale made. Do you know who
Okay.
Toby Vale is?
I've heard the name before, but you might have to refresh my memory because 'cause I'm drawing a blank right now.
She's the drummer of Bikini Kill.
Okay,
And
okay.
she's, I think she does some other stuff too. But anyway, she makes this post a few years ago. And this was around the time I had started building pedals. And
Yeah.
she was just like, why is everyone so obsessed with like this shoegaze bullshit and having these huge pedal boards? And back in the day we just wrote songs and fought. I don't remember exactly what the tweet said, but it was like saying like, oh, using effects is taking away from like the rebelliousness of the music. And it's like, fuck, man, like I get that plugging straight into a shitty amp and turning it all the way up is an aesthetic, and it's a good aesthetic in a lot of situations. Bikini Kill used that aesthetic really well.
Yeah.
But like to dismiss artists because of the tools they use, I think is, and like, say like, oh, you're not standing for something like I would stand for something, right?
Yeah, I feel like that's elitist if I'm using that term correctly,
That is
right?
that is pretty elitist.
Yeah.
And the okay, so what's ironic about all of that is Toby Vale. I saw Bikini Kill when they got back together, and Toby Vale sang one of the songs, and she
Yeah.
was like up there and she was just like, everyone in here can start a band if they want. And at that point in time, I hadn't been doing music. I'd been in grad school for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
I'd sold like all of my electric instruments. All I had was like my acoustic guitar and my banjo and my ukulele. And I was like, yeah. And so I started a band like the next week, like
Yeah.
after I saw Bikini Kill, because like I do love that so much. And it was because I was in a band and I wanted to tweak my sound and I wanted to get certain sounds out of my guitar that I started building guitar pedals.
Yeah.
So like I think it's so ironic that Toby Vale made this huge anti-guitar pedal rant,
Yep.
and she's the reason I built guitar pedals,
How fucking
in part.
ironic, right?
Yeah.
I was
And
actually to your point, when you said that you got rid of all of your electric instruments, what are your thoughts about folk punk?
I was lucky enough because I'm from Huntsville, Alabama. I knew
Yeah.
about Against Me before anyone knew about Against Me, back when they were a folk punk band, which is what they
Yeah.
were when they started out. I know that Against Me has like, they're a different genre every album, it seems
Yeah.
like. Somehow always kind of in the realm of punk, but like their first like two, maybe three albums were folk punk, and I really, really, really love those albums.
Yeah.
Aside from that, like I used to listen to Ghost Mice, but the dude from Ghost Mice is a rapist, it turns out, so
Ew.
I don't listen to him anymore.
Yeah, that's gross.
Yeah, and Days and Days, I kind of got into them. Sort of that I did live in a punk house in Alabama for a while that was run by this guy named Pat Bakula,
Okay.
who's probably not watching, but
Hi, Pat.
he he was a folk punk guy, and his brother
Okay.
Matt used to be in a band called Jawas with Andrew Seward, who is the bass player in Against Me now.
Okay.
Um, so I have like I have like 2 degrees of separation from Against Me. I've always thought that was really cool.
That is fucking
Um,
cool, though.
yeah, but I have always been drawn to like industrial sounds and
Okay.
electronic sounds and like sort of like I think that folk punk is fine.
Yeah.
It's fine music for people who want to make that kind of music. But me, I want a guitar that's going to be like
Yep.
you know.
You wanna have
Um
that metal machine music sound where it's just pure fucking feedback and noise and chaos.
yeah, exactly. Like I love the wall of noise aesthetic. And so that's kind of um I mean, you could say the music that I did play when all I had was acoustic instruments was folk punk, because I feel like all music I play is punk, because that's just I can't not play punk because it's
Yeah.
so ingrained in like my musical background. Um but yeah, like it's never really been a big thing for me. Like I've always been drawn like in the 80s, so there are like 2 post-punk albums in the 80s, from the 80s, American post-punk albums from the 80s that I think are like so or bands that are so diametrically opposite, right? And like I would say I prefer one over the other, which is Big Black and the Violent Femmes. And I think both of
Oh.
them are so can be representative of 80s American post-punk,
I love the
but
Violent
like
Femmes.
if I were to lean towards one way or the other, I would probably go with Big Black.
I understand that,
Um,
though. I really do.
yeah, and that being said, Brian
Yeah.
Ritchie from the Violent Femmes is probably the greatest rock bass player like ever.
Oh, man.
Like he's fantastic. Like if you just listen to the I mean, well, you've got people like Matt Freeman and stuff like that, but I
Yeah.
mean, he's good. He was
Oh, yeah.
really good for that album that came out in 82, right?
Yep. I think
Uh
so.
yeah, it was something like that. Violent Femmes.
Was that the one with Blister in the Sun? The
Of
first one?
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only one
Absolutely.
I've really listened to.
You should
83.
really check out the second one, which, oh my, if I'm not mistaken, what is it?
American
It's
music?
no, 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 well, that might be the one I'm thinking of is I think it's Country Death Songs or something like that, but that's an interesting one. There's some interesting shit on there. I found the Violent Femmes through their Added Up compilation.
Uh-huh.
That was, I think it was 81 through 93, and it had so many fucking good songs on it. Real quick, let's see. Michael saying Pavement, another great post-punk band. Homer from Babylon Sun, also love the Cramps. Well, yeah, it's the fucking Cramps. How can you not love the Cramps, right? Like that, you know. I
So
think the Misfits, would you say that they were like more of a gimmicky punk band, or do you think that they represent punk like pretty well?
the Misfits, I
Yeah.
would say so here Glenn Danzig thought the Misfits were cartoony. That's why he quit.
Yeah, and then he did
And
Sam Hain, which was, like, supposed to be way darker, which lyrically, I suppose it was. I mean, you go from talking about cartoony shit to
uh-huh.
fucking, like, invoking the fucking devil, like, come on, yeah, of course.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so like I think, but I think also a lot of what punk rock is, like not the larger culture that is punk, but like
Yeah,
what punk rock is
yeah,
it is a young people's kind of music, and it's sort of a bratty, snotty kind of music, you know?
yeah,
And I think that the Misfits have had that about them in their initial run.
Yeah. That
It
reminds
was
me of the Punk Buster, actually.
oh yeah, I was
Yeah.
just sitting here flicking the toggle switches on it.
Yeah, it's the best thing to do is flick toggle switches.
Yeah. So we've got the Punk Buster. We got about 5 minutes left
I
in.
mean, if you're okay with running a little over, I wouldn't mind because I kind of bogarted most of the conversation talking about Lou Reed and the Velvet Underground and like my whole
Oh,
God
that's fair.
thing. So it's if you're okay with running a little over, I don't mind, especially for the benefit of anybody who's watching if they want. It's up to you
Yeah.
though.
No, I mean, I'll stay on. We can stay on. It's not like we have a producer or like a production company over us that's gonna like, it's not like we have to pay people overtime if we
Yeah,
go
fair.
over.
That's true.
Um, so, but like, I was just trying to think of like a trivia question to ask. Um, for the Punk
Hmm.
Buster. Um,
Ooh, what
Here,
about
send it to me in the chat. Send it to me in the private chat.
yeah. Let me see. Let me see. Um, hmm, hmm, hmm. Uh,
Also, while you're doing that, I'm going to talk about a little bit about Dinosaur Jr.
oh,
Um,
Dinosaur Jr.'s awesome too.
yeah, Dinosaur Jr. is fantastic. I think out of the like post-hardcore American post-hardcore like guitar gods that were around, like I've always been more of a Bob Mould fan than a I just forgot the Dinosaur Jr. guy's name. Uh what is his freaking name?
I know the guy you're talking about too, and
Jay
I can't.
Mascis. Jay
Yes,
Mascis.
that's it.
And I've always been more into like Who's Your Dues Later stuff than and I don't know why I equate those two bands. I guess because Jay Mascis and Bob Mould are both kind of considered these like indie guitar gods,
Yeah,
right? Um, but Dinosaur Jr. is a let's see. Oh, hold on.
yeah.
Uh,
I know. I'm kind of basic with my suggestion. I'm a little fucking tired, and
oh,
I
you're
took
good.
I took some of my medication, so I'm a little bit.
Let me think. How about
Hmm.
what is it'll be something we talked about during the episode. How about that?
That works. That works for me.
What is the name of the person that the songs Lola and Walk on the Wild Side is about? And first person in the comments to answer that
Yeah, first
gets
person to answer gets the Punk Buster, right?
yeah, first person to answer that gets the Punk Buster.
And if it's more than one at the same time, we have a death match.
Yep. Yep.
But do we count partial
Do we
name or does it got to be the full name?
Okay, what's the last name? Can you get the last name in?
It's got to be the full name in order to count. Just so that we can be official with it. I'm such a masochist right now.
No, this is I'm just sitting here looking at the chat like who's going to do it?
You're like, come on, let's get it.
Because
Let's
they're
figure it
all
out.
on Google. They're all on Google trying to figure it out right now.
The other thing I was gonna say is what's the name of the guitar player from the Velvet Underground that I keep fucking forgetting?
Oh, that's a good one.
But we'll
Well,
see.
okay, we'll see. We'll see whatever people say. I mean, I think at this point it's
Oh, okay. So
Candy Darling. Okay,
Candy Darling.
okay,
Yeah.
there it is. Okay, so Babylon Sun, we got Candy
Homer gets it.
Homer gets it. Yeah, Punk Buster. So send email to info@demonicmachines.com with your address. And I will uh send you the pedal. So yeah.
Let's do this. For the runner up, if whoever other than Homer, because Homer already won something, if anybody can answer the other question about the name of the guitar player from the Velvet Underground, maybe send a sticker pack or something.
I am actually out of stickers.
Okay.
Almost. Um,
So
Let me think. I can
we'll
send, I mean, honestly, I can send people whatever. Like I have so many pedals just around. How about we'll do well, no, this is not a good runner up prize, I feel like. Um
maybe one of the
let's
87s.
Yeah, let's say an 87 treble booster. Runner up gets the 87 treble booster if you can
All
tell
right,
us.
you heard it, folks. What is the name of the other guitar player in the Velvet Underground other than Homer? Because you already won something. You will win the 87 treble booster if you can answer that question before we go off the air. If anyone's interested, that is, of course.
So we know John Cale, we know Lou Reed,
Yep, and we
and
know Mo Tucker. We need
okay,
the other one. We need the other one, and then that'll be it. And we're not talking about later on. We're talking in the beginning, first album.
hold on.
Nope, it was
I'm
not
gonna look.
J.J. Cale. I know that much. But good guess.
Oh, I didn't know they made a movie about the Velvet Underground.
I think there were a couple different ones. Like one of them was a documentary from their self-titled era, which had a different bass player because that was after John Cale and Lou Reed got into like a huge fucking like they couldn't agree on what the direction of the group was. So Lou was like, fuck off. And then he brought in his buddy to do bass, and it was a lot softer of an album, which is why I didn't really talk about it, because after that it kind of got more soft and mainstream sounding, which there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with because they were trying to sell records at the end of the day. I mean, back then they needed the fucking money. So obviously Lou Reed had a fucking heroin habit to support. So like for God's sakes, you know. All right.
Yeah. So
Let
we
me
still
see.
haven't. No
Yeah,
one's
we still
responded.
haven't gotten it.
And
Let
I
me
looked
see.
up the name, so I know who it is. So
Yeah, so
if
we're just waiting on anyone to be interested. Yep. And I did actually say the name correct. So if anybody was listening, I already knew it was. So if you remember it, literally drop a name and you got it. And I think my internet's cutting out again. So there's that as well.
oh, give us the last
Last
name.
name as well. We need the last name as well. Let's
So
see.
ridiculous.
Almost.
Yeah, Sterling
There you
Morrison.
go.
All right,
Okay.
cool. So
We got it.
Michael,
Sterling Morrison. Yes.
send us an
87
email.
Trouble Booster going to Michael.
Yeah,
Info
Mike.
at demonicmachines.com, correct?
Yes, info at demonicmachines.com. It's in the banner at the bottom. So send an email with your shipping info. I'll send you the treble booster. You can boost your trebles.
Absolutely.
And it'll make you sound like why am I forgetting everyone's names? Tony
It'll make you sound like
Tom
Brian May,
Tony
right?
Iommi. Yeah, or
Oh,
Brian
Tony
May
Iommi. Either one. Yeah,
or
well, you know, both famous for using that.
Richie Blackmore,
Yup.
right? Who else
Also,
famously used a treble booster?
I
Um,
was gonna say, didn't Eddie Van Halen use one on the demos for Van Halen? But that I can't verify.
I mean, Eddie, who knows? I mean, with
Yeah.
Eddie Van Halen, I think a lot of his sound was just like a high gain amp, right? Like
Yeah, that's
I
true.
because he didn't really use any like drive pedals, I think. Like
No, it
if
was
I think
mainly the Phase 90 just to have that movement in the
and a
background of the
wah,
solos. Yup, and a wah.
right?
That's
Yeah.
correct. Yeah.
And then like he plugged into the didn't he have a Marshall at first and then he like did the PV 5150 after that?
Yep, I think it was a high gain mod on I don't know if it was a JCM 800 or if it was an earlier Marshall, but I think you're correct. Yeah, because that was back when Kiss first found them and brought them on tour, and then fucking Van Halen opened for them and kick their ass every night, and people are like, who wants to fucking see this?
Hell yeah.
And tell your friends to watch the show. We may do more giveaways. If you win a pedal, please feel free to record a video of yourself opening the box and your excitement for it, or record a song, record a video of you playing it, post it on Instagram, post it on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, whatever you, even Vimeo. I don't even know if Vimeo is a thing anymore. Shout out to Vimeo. Anybody who's fucking still Live Leak, whatever the fuck else they got out there, you know?
Oh god, I forgot
Um,
about Live Leak. What
I
a
try to
horrible
forget about
website.
live. Yeah, I try to
Yeah.
forget about Live Leak as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and anybody who has a demonic machine, please, by any means, send any videos you have. Tag demonic machines on any of the socials. You could send a video in, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think that would be too bad. We
Yeah,
might
I can.
post it on the official demonic machines as a video, like, hey, here's somebody using a demonic machine. Check it out. We love to see you using our gear. It's fantastic.
Mhm.
My Hulk booster has not left my board. Like it's not going anywhere. Brother, we're keeping it on the board there, brother. Oh, dude. Get yourself a
Smash,
demonic
brother!
machine, dude.
Smash, brother!
Yeah, for real. And do yourself a favor. If you're looking for a flanger, try the Electric Kisses. It's a fucking awesome flanger. It uses an amazing flanger chip. I'm going to let Lucky expand on that. But you should check it out, even just because it looks great. Like, that's the pedal that made me give up doing graphic design for pedals. So take a look at amazing work and
Well,
find
that
out
makes me
why I
feel bad.
stopped. No, I didn't
Um,
quit, but I'm just not as you. Let me put it this way. You took what I've wanted to do in my head and made it reality. It's like, okay, that's your Sergeant Pepper's to my
mhm.
Smile. I'm Brian Wilson. I was trying to do Smile, and you did Sergeant Pepper's, and I heard it on the radio, and I'm like, God damn it, they've already done it. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Okay. I
Oh
mean,
God.
well, I think eventually you'll probably come up with something better. I mean, didn't you go to school for graphic design? I'm just like,
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything. My degree's from like fucking. Oh God, I don't want to say it, but yeah, it's
okay.
an it's an old degree, and I was trained using Photoshop 3, which is
Oh
like,
god.
yes, very old.
Well,
Illustrator, I'm a little bit more versed in. That's what I try to use when I would do designs.
yeah.
If anyone wants to see any of my designs, you could
Yeah.
check out. I have some stuff. I think my old Instagram got deleted, but I have some stuff I think on there, or I've done work with Bardic Audio for some custom work that I commissioned. And there's some stuff that hasn't been released from other people that we may or may not have featured on the show that may or may not see the light of day sometime. But oh
Nice.
yeah, and the Pat Riot Act, which was another one that a friend of mine had commissioned through Bardic Audio as well. That one uses a lot of older vintage like cutout stamp style art and things that I found that was like, it was like found art type of stuff that I put my own twist on and was like, hey, this looks fucking cool. And it almost looks like an arcade cabinet. So I mean,
Mhm.
there's some interesting stuff. Michael said, I sent an
An email.
email. I suck at using Instagram. It's okay. I suck at using anything. I mean, you see how many times my internet goes out, right? And Homer, yes, you need a good flanger. So I would recommend you check that out. Let's
Yeah.
see. Emails coming from my Firebird strap email. Okay. Well, Lucky. Now you know what to look out for Homer's
Cool.
email. And yes, Michael, please post it to Facebook. Tag us. We would love to see whatever video, even if it's just you putting your guitar leaning up against the amp, strumming an open string, and leaving it to play itself for an hour. Use the
Mhm.
treble booster, and we'll watch the whole fucking. I'll write a song about it. I will. I don't give a shit. I'll do whatever you fucking need me to. Okay.
Hell yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
So, like, hold on. I'm gonna look at our itinerary and see if
Yeah. Anything stands
um,
out.
anything we. So, summarize key points. This isn't a class. Y'all can go back and watch the video. Share final thoughts on the impact of rebellion in music and its cultural significance. It's there. Thanks the
Yeah.
listeners for tuning in and remind them to subscribe to the podcast. Oh yeah. Um, Also, our podcast is gonna. Our podcast right now, you can watch it on YouTube, you can watch it on Facebook, you can watch it on Twitch. I just made a Spotify podcast account, so pretty
Fantastic.
soon you'll be able to listen to an audio version of our podcast on Spotify. So check that out. We're called Demonic Machines Live, of course. Also, it's Pride Month. If you go to demonicmachines.com and use the code Pride Riot, hold on, I will make a banner that says that.
Gotcha.
If you use the code Pride Riot, then you will get 15% off your order. So yeah. And
Sam, you
the
didn't
re-
miss the show, Sam. You're here. We're still technically going, so it's all good, Sam. Sorry to interrupt, Lucky.
Oh, did Sam just get here?
Sam just
Oh,
popped in. I mean, we could do another 5 minutes if you still want to talk about stuff. I mean, I'm not
I
super,
I'm
super tired.
I think I am done. I
You're like, I
think
am checked out.
yeah. No, I wanna hit my bong and like I'll pack up these pedals and stuff. But yeah, next week. So what's the theme next week, Deuce?
I have an idea actually.
Okay.
Since we have 3 viewers, let's see if anybody has suggestions and maybe we could pick the best suggestion out of the 3.
Okay.
Or all come up with one and we'll say fuck you because sometimes people don't respond in time.
Yeah. Or
So,
in the
yeah.
chat, or actually if you want to comment on the video on YouTube
Yeah,
or
either
on
one.
I
Any
mean,
way that you want to interact, we welcome you to and we encourage you to do so.
yeah. And yeah, with that, I guess y'all have a
Oh, looks like
good
Michael's getting a punk buster anyway.
oh, nice.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Michael. We appreciate it.
That is, tell your wife you owe you whatever your wife wants you to do, you should do it for her, whether
Eh,
it's like weed eating or like I don't know what married people do. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
right.
Wash the dishes or something, like
Vacuum, clean the
vacuum.
toilet, cut
Yeah,
the
dude,
grass.
because your wife is awesome and she's buying you a sweet guitar pedal.
And if
Um,
you send an email to info@demonicmachines and include your receipt, Lucky will get in contact with me and I will make you an instrumental that will be exclusive for you.
nice.
Just
Okay.
just for you. But you
Okay.
have to include your receipt in the email to Lucky or else it's void.
Okay. Right on.
Don't say we
I
don't do it for you.
do the laundry. Okay. Yeah. So with that, I am going to say good night to everybody. And have a beautiful time. I don't
Thank you
know.
very much, my friends. As always, we appreciate your patronage. Please don't forget to check out our Patreon as well.
Oh
If you
yeah.
want to support the show right now, we both have day jobs, and I very much don't enjoy mine, but at the same time, it's a necessity living in the times that we live in. So
Mhm.
if you would like to support what we do and continue to see us do so and try to improve quality and make a better product for everyone to enjoy, please consider checking out our Patreon. I think you can find more information about that on the Demonic Machines website, or I'm sure that Lucky has links to it on the Instagram as well.
Mhm.
Um, we are more than happy to entertain, and we're grateful for anything that you guys do for us. And we appreciate you being here genuinely and sincerely. it's something that I look forward to every week, just even if it's just an hour, just to talk, just to be here, just to enjoy a space where we can all enjoy talking to each other about whatever. I mean, like who wouldn't enjoy that, you know? So from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. We appreciate your subscription, and I hope that we can earn your trust enough to have you join our Patreon. And if you join, again, send a receipt, email. I'll write a song for you, instrumental. Tell me what genre. I'll do my best. I'm not a wizard, but I'll do what I can for you. All right? Really appreciate you guys. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Look forward to next week. Who knows what we're going to do? Who knows who we're going to do? Who's going to be here? What's going to be here? When here will be? Or what we'll talk about?
And how?
And how?
Okay.
See ya.